Hey everyone, welcome to Table Talk
There's a table here.
with Dr. Dan and Amanda from Resolve Physical Therapy and Performance. We're happy you could join us. We wanted to talk a bit about the idea of rest, right? It's something that we've been hearing about in discovery calls, clients coming in, and so just want to take a second. Dr. Dan, could you tell us a bit about how we've been hearing rest mentioned and the types of clients or cases that we've seemed to have kind of on repeat?
Yeah, good question. So one example that comes to mind was a young high school level basketball player who was dealing with a kind of like a sudden onset of hip pain, right? So the doctor diagnosed him with a hip flexor strain, which we won't go down that rabbit hole of if it was or wasn't. But his solution for this particular athlete was to rest, and he told him for 9 days. Not sure how he came to that number, but we know that the inflammatory process in an acute painful situation can last between 7 to 14 days, or maybe even a little longer depending. But so and then I think some other examples might be like a runner dealing with knee pain or hip pain, that they go see their physician because they're not exactly sure what's going on, and the doctor says, just take a break from running and you'll feel better soon.
So when that basketball player or the runner followed their doctor's orders and rested, then what happened?
Yeah, well, that's the big question, right? It's sort of like, so this basketball player, waited the 9 days. His father and I communicated after this, and he went back to play, and then he had ongoing hip pain. Yeah, that's basically what happened. Nothing else was provided as a solution for this person.
So you're saying that all the doctor said was to rest, which they listened to.
Yes.
And then once that 9 days, whatever amount of time was over, they're still in pain. So it's as if these 9 days were lost.
Basically lost in this person's season. They had to miss a couple games. It's kind of getting towards the end of the season. He is, I believe, a freshman that was trying to maybe be playing JV or varsity next year. So it was important for him to be able to play in these games.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So from these two cases that we have seen, in addition to stuff we've heard in the past, people we've talked to, rest seems to be something that is prescribed often.
Yeah.
So imagine someone goes to the doctor and they are told to rest. How would you advise that they manage that? Should they strictly just stop and then deal with it after that time is over? Is there any insights or tips you can give for what to do during that period and what resting might really look like?
Yeah, I think it's important here. There's a lot of answers in that question, right? So it's important to know that sometimes rest can be useful, okay? I would say, but that's oftentimes not the majority of situations, okay? In a situation in which someone might be, let's say they're a runner, okay, dealing with some sort of joint pain, a foot, hip, knee, it doesn't matter, and they're training for a half marathon, okay? They are 6 weeks out of half marathon, and taking 2 to 3 weeks off of training is not a solution to the problem. So they won't be able to condition themselves up. There are ways to manage their pain without them necessarily having to fully eliminate running from their routine, right? For the basketball player, right, who has some hip pain while he's playing, do you have to fully eliminate the sport of basketball, right? Maybe his hip pain is minor enough that he can continue to play, especially towards the end of the season where playoffs are maybe occurring and getting looked at to go to the next level, where he can play as long as he's not feeling worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. If his pain levels are staying steady and they're tolerable, then I would actually encourage that athlete to like, hey, like, don't play now. Like, continue to play. Let's manage this the best we can now. Do what we can to make you feel better in between games. Give you strategies to work on that. And then, like, after the season's over, when you're not playing basketball, then we can, like, build you back up again to be able to tolerate the basketball.
Okay, so you're saying that if you advise him to keep playing, it's to keep playing while receiving support from a PT or somebody during that, not just push through.
With yeah, exactly. With guidance and education, has to be like, hey, this might be a time where if you feel like this, where you should stop playing, right? Take yourself out of the game. But if your pain level is very low, like a 2-3 out of 10, and you don't feel worse after the game is over, and the next day it's the same or better, I would argue that like it might be important to play. And if you're the runner experiencing the same thing, training for a race, if it's like up to a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 maybe, like, and that race is around the corner, I would maybe suggest like, hey, let's see what it looks like if we keep going.
So to reach out though, not to just, for someone hearing this, if they say, oh, my pain's at a 4, so okay, I'm just gonna keep training. You have to train while being supported by a professional.
By a professional, right? And there's a lot of it depends to these answers too, right? Depends upon the athlete in front of you. Also, like, what is their headspace, right? Do they believe that rest is the only way to handle? Are they fearful of playing?
Well, that's what I was going to say next. I can only imagine that somebody experiencing pain who is then told to rest in terms of like take time off is probably feeling fear about making it worse. Yeah,
and it's understandable, right? You know, doctors are held in high authority. They're really knowledgeable. They know, the body really well. And they say, rest will help you, right? There's no question eliminating painful activity is going to make you feel better, okay?
When you're not doing it.
When you're not doing it, right. So the problem becomes, what do you do when you want to get back to that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So...
so you rest, you feel better when you're sitting on your couch.
Yeah.
But say your hip is feeling better, but how are you mentally?
Right. Yeah.
How you can't go for that run, which that run could provide a mental release, puts you in a better place to be with your family, happier, endorphins.
Yeah.
So that rest makes you feel better in the moment of that specific site of pain, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But ultimately is not an answer. And when told to rest, is there anything maybe someone should consider a follow-up question to their doctor, or anything they should try to find out more about to be informed? Yeah,
I think like if you go see a physician, get back on frame here. If you see a physician, whether it's an ortho, your general practitioner, whoever, and they say, hey, well, you rested for a little bit, and then you ask, like, well, what do I do then? When I want to get back to this, what do I do? They may not have the answer, and that's not their fault. It's like they don't know strength and conditioning, right? They don't know sports performance. They just know that like it's safer to keep you out of that activity than it is to have you do the activity. So I think it's the time to reach out to someone that you know, or ask a family member or friend if they've seen a physical therapist that helped them. You can send us a DM, ask us questions. We'd be happy to talk to you, of course. But there has to be a plan to go from rest to performance, right?
Or it sounds like a plan during rest.
Even plan during rest, right?
To performance.
Right. Even if it is necessary for you to rest. Let's say you have a bone stress injury. Okay, where maybe there's a stress fracture and your doctor's like, yeah, you can't load this right now, it's gonna get worse. Sure, that might be a time to rest that area of the body. But that doesn't mean you have to rest your whole entire body. There's a lot of things you can do to keep yourself in a state of good cardiovascular conditioning, upper body strengthening. If you completely do nothing, you're not even giving your body the internal environment it needs to heal, right? Like all that stuff, exercise is healthy for healing. Sitting on the couch and resting does not encourage a good, healthy, healing environment.
Why is that?
Well, because you're not getting blood circulation systematically. You're not encouraging. Like when you exercise, you get metabolic cascade that happens, and you get delivery of nutrients to all of your bone tissue, your muscle tissue, your ligaments and your tendons. Like, and this is also diet and good sleep and stress management all come into play as well. You know, in terms of healing, like, yeah, you can rest and not move your joint for, 4 to 6 weeks, but then what? You're gonna be stiff, you're gonna be achy, but maybe there's things that are safe to do for that joint too, that can be considered as well.
So it sounds to me that the prescription of rest is probably not going away.
No.
But when you receive it, think twice, and before strictly following it and taking yourself out from activity, whatever that might be, reach out. We'd love to talk to you. And find some guidance about what you can and can't do so that when you are able to start loading that area or whatever, you're in even better shape for a full recovery. Sound accurate?
That's summarized beautifully, yes.
Okay. As Dr. Dan likes to say, rest is rust.
Motion is lotion. Move well, move often.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care.